Hey, this is Gabe. Welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to be making a Steve Vai swirl themed guitar pen. Like in the image that you see beforehand, I'm going to start out with the back of the fretboard, which is like this right here. We are using Wenge on the outside. We have maple, Purpleheart, Bubinga in the middle. Maple, Purpleheart, maple, and then Wenge. So this is our wood right here. I cut this on the bandsaw already ahead of time. And I used my 17-inch grizzly bandsaw with a veneer cutting blade. It's a 3/4-inch carbide skip tooth blade, and it's a Laguna Tools Resaw King blade. Now on the Wenge, this is how you normally see pen blanks like this. I'm cutting it vertically. I want to see the grain stacked in lines. And on the sides, I want to see them like this. I don't want them the other way around like this. That is how the back of the fretboard of this Ibanez guitar is built. Now, it's not exactly like it. Otherwise, I'd have two more layers. I'd have another layer of Wenge here. But because of the thinness of the back of the or the bottom of the pen, I'm not able to get 11 layers in there and show off all the woods. So I'm just going to be going for a flavor of how that is actually going to look. And you can see what that looks like again. And then we're going to do the front in rosewood. And now there's a lot going on in here. This is my third attempt. And we have aluminum. We have the acrylic dots here, which is acrylic abalone. I've got AquaPearl acrylic in a swirl. And then I have copper, and you can see that copper in there. So this, like I said, this is my third attempt. And I'm not really liking it because I'm not getting these lines flowing like I would like it. It's a little too much action, a little too busy, so I'm not getting the flow just right. So I'm simplifying it out, following more of the pattern on the actual guitar itself. So if you followed my segmenting series from years ago, I don't glue individual pieces and layer them and then clamp them together. That's why you see my clamps right here, my little binder clips, my clamps. I like to do things easy, so I want to slap this down, make sure all those pieces of wood are lying flat. Apply even pressure with these spring clamps. It's just the right amount of pressure, not overdoing it. It's going to still allow the CA glue to flow. So once I reverse that, I can see that that is pretty level. So I'm just going to flood those, let that CA glue get in there and work its magic. Flip it over. And because this is thin CA, that glue travels really quickly through there. You're going to make sure you have your garage or your shop ventilated because this gets very fumy. So let that sit for a second and then use your activator. And we'll let that sit, and then we'll come back to that. In the disc sander, I already sanded one side, so I just need to cut off this side right here because it's a little bit of a gap. So I just want to make sure that's nice and flush. One thing I forgot to do was to cut this to the right thickness. I need this cut down to about 3/8 of an inch thick right here. And if you look at this, you can see that the bottom side right here, that's how thick that is. 3/8, like that. And that's what that looks like on the Eddie Van Halen pen, if you remember when we made that. So 3/8 on the bottom, and then we need 3/8 on top. For the front of the lower part of the blank, and this is Honduras Rosewood. We already made the back half of the lower part, so this is going to be the front part of the fretboard. It's got a swirl design. I'm going to be using two different materials. These dots are where the markers are going to be. And this is kind of a tricky design. So I've experimented with this. I'm using copper for this first part right here. So in order for us to put that in there like that, I have to cut off the ends. So in order for us to get that in there, I have to cut the end off on each side, cut this in half, put the copper on the inside, glue it back together, trim it up on the outside edges like this. And then once we do that, we will start on the next line. So we'll show you what we're going to do. Taking this right here, I'm going to cut here, and I'm going to cut here. Using my pull saw. Doing the same thing for the other side. Looks like I forgot to start the bandsaw there, but I cut this right here, a 1/8 inch blade on the mini bandsaw, and following that bottom line. If you take it nice and slow, you'll get a pretty nice smooth cut. So I have a piece of copper sanded on both sides. It's from a roll of copper I bought on Amazon. That's going to go in there just like that. I'm going to line up those lines. Push that all the way down. I think that looks pretty close. Okay, I got that lined up pretty good. Now I'm just going to flood that with some thin CA. on front, back, and then the bottom. Hit it with some accelerator, and then we'll come right back. Okay, I hit that with the accelerator. Now all I got to do is trim this up and sand it. I'm going to do that real quick on the disc sander. Okay, this is the piece we left off that we just cut right here. So now comes the tricky part. We need to glue this onto another piece of wood. Now I have this part right here trimmed up, so I need to trim these end pieces here. They're just nice and flush, just with the disc sander, just that bottom piece right there, just a little bit. And then I'm going to glue this down to a piece of wood with a spacer in between. Back to my glove. I'm going to glue that as a spacer in between. Or I'm not going to glue it. I'm just going to place it on between there as a gap. And then I'll pull it out once this and this is glued down. And then I'll do the same thing for this side. It'll make sense after I do it. Okay, we are back. I've got these glued in place. These are just stuck in there freely. And I've got a bottom piece of wood here. This is to support the top, to keep the spacing correct. These are going to come out. We will reinsert these later. So now that our spacing is correct, and the main reason when I say spacing is correct, when I cut this right here, this little serpentine, this will keep the spacing evenly from the line going across through the copper. It'll look like it's flowing gracefully, not skipped like the lines like this. Instead of, it should be like this. Instead, it won't look like that. So I hope you know what I'm saying. I don't exactly know how to explain it any other way than that. And then again, like I said, this is our line here that is facing on this side of the jig away from us. It doesn't make any difference if you do it this way or this way, just as long as you keep one side of the blade the same orientation. That way you know all your lines, the flow is going to line up correctly. So with that, and then I'm going to go ahead and drill these holes here first. And then once I have those holes drilled for the markers, I'm going to put the acrylic abalone markers in place. Then I'll cut that serpentine so that I know how those are going to line up, so that I know that when I cut that, they won't cut into the markers. And I'm just going to do that off camera, because otherwise the video gets really long and boring. Okay, now that that's been cut, you can see what that looks like. And the reason I put this on the bottom is because if I didn't have this, this would fall apart and I would lose its shape. It wouldn't have the exact placement spacing wise. So, and the other thing is the 1/8 inch saw blade, the kerf is about the same thickness of what I'm putting in there, which is some AquaPearl that I cut on the bandsaw, which is less than 1/16 inch thick. So it's kind of flexible, but not real flexible. I don't want to bend it and then have it fall apart on me. So that goes in there like that, just like I did before. I'm going to clamp that together, but I want to maintain that spacing that I have right there. So I have a couple of these little keys right here. So These are the aluminum saw kerfs. I'm going to put that, and this is seated all the way down like this right here, but it's not going to hit that plastic. And do the same thing on the top end, and that's going to maintain the correct spacing where those pieces are going to go. So I'm just going to raise this up like that. Clamp that. Always seems to happen when it's trash day, is about the only day I can really get in the shop and do a couple hours worth of work. So now that that is in there and the spacing is correct, I can remove these safely. And now I can put in my thin CA, hit that with the accelerator, and then when that's done, I'm going to trim that off, and then we'll come right back. Okay, back again. That's been trimmed up roughly. I smoothened the sides. I remarked that back side right there. So now I'm going to trim off the ends on each side. I'm going to recut over here, and then I'm going to cut these individual lines. Wow, I went way too far deep. Almost cut that clear off. But that is what that is for, so that when I make that cut, it keeps the correct spacing all the way across. So I'm just going to advance to the next cut. Like that. And then I'll do the rest off camera. And I'm using 5 of these pieces of 020 aluminum. Just pushing those down in the hole like that. And you can see that I'm buried down below the redwood, the rosewood, excuse me. I'm just going to flood the blank with some thin CA and accelerator. Clean that up on the disc sander. Sand the sides, the top. I'm going to cut the bottom off. And then when all that is done, we'll come right back. Okay, so now that that has been sanded down, and you can see what that looks like. That looks pretty good. So now I just need to match this up to this, and that is just going to get glued on just using some thin CA. I'm going to clamp it first in place and then flood the blank with some thin CA. Using a binder clip like that. Of course, it'll be lined up first. I'm going to do that off camera, and then we'll come right back when that's all cleaned up and trimmed evenly. Okay, so here we are. Now that is on there, and I'm happy with the way that looks. You can see that copper in there, and then that AquaPearl stripe. That's going to look really good in that detail. So the next thing to do is to, first thing I need to do is I need to make the section and the finial, but the section is the most important thing, because once I get the section done, then I can turn the lower part of the body, and then the cap, I'm going to use these rods for that. So the body, when I get that turned, I'm going to do that all off camera. then I can fit the section. Once I know where the nib lines up on the section, I can adjust the body from this blank here, how everything is going to line up. And then once I have these components turned, we'll come back. All right, we are back now. It's been several hours off camera getting this straightened out and drilled out. I had to glue the outsides. I call it shimming, for lack of a better word. It's stabilizing the outside of the blank when I put it in the lathe to drill it out so it doesn't explode. So with that, but I did mark, I've got a couple of pencil marks here, so I know the orientation of that markers, so that I know on, this is the bottom here, like this. This is going to be the section, obviously. This is the cap, two-piece cap. This is, this green represents the knobs on the guitar. And I want to bring that guitar color in also in the section. So this will get glued on like that right there, and then this is a finial piece that's going to go on right here. So the main thing is, before I glue this on here, I have to have the section seated all the way, the nib in the section, because I want these dots to line up with the section. I don't want it to be crooked like this. You can fix it if it goes in crooked, but it's a lot of sanding here on the end to try and bring that down so that this twists and lines up. It's easier just to get all this, do all this anyway, and then get it to line up after the fact. So once you sight that all the way down, you can see where these dots are and how that lines up in relation to the nib. So once you're happy with that, you can glue that and then glue this on the end just like that right there. And then these right here are squared up. So all you have to do is just put it in the lathe and then clamp it and then glue it and then hit it with the activator, and then that'll dry. When that's all done, we'll come back and then we'll turn the body, and then we will turn the cap. It's about 8 coats of CA, thin CA, that I put on with activator before I sanded. I wanted to be able to seal those cracks or anything in there first. Now I'm just going to use 220, 320, and 400, and then I'll reapply about 20 coats of thin CA. After 4 or 5 coats, I want to resand that with 400 grit and then go through the process again 4 or 5 more times so that gets real thick. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is I need to turn the cap, and then this obviously goes on here like this. So I'm not going to cut off this end here yet until after I turn down the cap. The cap is just the same as turning the body, so I'm just going to do that off camera. When that's all done, we'll come back. Okay, so this is the finished pin. I added a Damascus steel clip to that. And you can see what this looks like. That looks pretty good. And the clip itself looks pretty sharp on that too. And that's what that clip looks like right there. So if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. I know this was a long build to make this right here, but it's worth it with all the different elements that we have going on and all the different woods. So thanks again. Have a good day. Hey, this is Gabriel Castro. Thanks for watching my YouTube channel. You can click on the link right here and subscribe. You can watch a video series right here or the latest video right here.